Who's the best Gameweek 28 FPL captain? My name is Benji, and last week we backed Cole Palmer with the armband. His underwhelming form continued against Southampton, but he's got another promoted team this weekend. So does Mo Salah, who is fasting during Ramadan. It's another competitive week for captaincy. Let's find out who I'm backing. Thinking Cap activated. So, Salah did outscore Cole Palmer by 3 points, but I'm not considering that as a bad decision. Against Southampton, Palmer registered the second highest XGI total out of all players. Only Ismail Assar got more last week, so for me, it was a good decision. Unlucky outcome. You've also got to consider that half of the battle is choosing when to go against Salah, and the fact that it was only a 3-point swing highlights that it was a decent opportunity to take him on. Watkins enters my 28 shortlist, facing his former club Brentford. Isak's up against West Ham on Monday night, but for most of you, it'll be between the two premium midfielders, as both of them have promoted team fixtures at home. Now, Palmer did just blank at home to a promoted team for the first time last week, which was that Southampton game. But apart from that, his record's very impressive. Salah's produced 20 returns from 20 starts against promoted teams at home. His 30% blank rate indicates consistency, reliability perhaps, but in his last 5 starts, he's returned just one double-digit haul. Most recent points ceiling in these easy home fixtures isn't as high as you'd think. Southampton are the most targetable fixture in 28. Their defensive numbers across the season are levels below the other defenses. However, 3 of the 4 have recently changed managers. So to get a more accurate analysis, let's look at their numbers across the last 4. Southampton are still the worst. However, Leicester's underlyings creep closer to that of Southampton. Rude's backline has conceded just 2 goals less in their last 4 away games. The gap between Leicester and Southampton's big chances conceded is down to just 2. However, Southampton continue to rack up that XGC and shots on target conceded. In 27, I was really hot on targeting this Southampton team because of their absentee list and their predicted lineup, but based on the current info, they'll have a few guys returning, including CDM Okechukwu. Back in that midfield, he was a massive miss against Chelsea. Centre-back Harwood Bellis should also be fit enough to start. Those are 2 important defensive players for the Saints, and having them available certainly makes Southampton slightly less appealing. Kyle Walker-Peters went off against Chelsea with a calf injury. At the moment, I've got no new info on that one. I'd expect Wellington or Ryan Manning to step in if Walker-Peters is out for Liverpool, but for sure, Southampton will field a stronger defensive lineup than they did against Chelsea. Leicester City don't have any new absentees at the time of recording, but we know their defense has been shocking under Van Nistelrooy. Still, I've got Southampton as the most appealing fixture, but Leicester City are certainly not far behind and are a very close second. The 2 midfielders have the best game day profiles, but Salah's the top dog in this one. He's got the best numbers in 4 out of 5 categories, and Mo has not blanked in any of his last 5 Saturday home starts. Palmer's yet to hit that same level of consistency in Sunday home matches. He does have the best blank rate, sitting at 25%, and he's returned 2 double-digit holds in his last 5. Salah's returned just 1. Switching over to game time comparison, and this time Palmer dominates. He's never blanked when starting in a 2 o'clock fixture at home, and he's holed in 29% of starts. That's the best double-digit hole rate on offer. His data points rank first in all 5 categories. If you've watched my best cap videos before, you'll already know that I love to take on Salah when he's playing home games at 3 o'clock. I took him on in Gameweek 23 against Ipswich, in Gameweek 16 against Fulham, and in Gameweek 10 against Brighton. In all of those weeks, he returned under 10 points, and look at his points history. Mo's failed to deliver double digits in 3 o'clock home fixtures for 3 years. His last double-digit haul at this kickoff time at home was a 10-pointer against Norwich on February 19th, 2022. His last 2 return game where he got more than 1 GA was September 18th, 2021, 3.5 years ago. So even in Salah's best ever season, which is now where he's going for the Ballon d'Or, he's going for all of the goal involvement records, this kickoff time trend has still continued, and personally I've used it to my advantage with captaincy this season. Now, of course, there's some parts of Salah's profile, game time profile, that are positive. His blank rate is decent, his recent form is decent as well. And I'm not saying that Mo's going to blank this weekend, but if you're thinking Salah's offering that 20-point ceiling in this fixture, I'd strongly disagree with that. And even if he does break this trend, I reckon you're looking at a 1-2 GA game against Southampton max. Because it's Ramadan, I've compiled all of Salah's starts during Ramadan throughout his Premier League career, and my findings were very interesting. Long term, I don't expect fasting to have much of an impact on Salah's performances, but we need to discuss it this week because this Southampton game is the only league fixture he's going to be playing during Ramadan, and it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, which means no food or water before or after the conclusion of the match. The end of fasting in the UK will be around sunset time, which on Saturday it's projected to be around 6 o'clock. The Southampton game will finish around 5 o'clock, so Mo's not breaking his fast during the game, before the game, or just after the game for sure. Historically, Salah's points history is actually not bad during Ramadan. However, if you look at it, his only double-digit hauls during Ramadan have come in late night kickoffs. He's never produced 10 or more points during Ramadan in a game that wasn't in the evening, which is why I'm taking this trend really seriously for captaincy. There's definitely some added positives with athlete performance during Ramadan. Some players have said they feel closer to God and therefore more connected to the sport during this time. However, Salah's historical record suggests that earlier kickoffs aren't his favorite during this time and certainly impact his explosive potential. Rest and recovery now. There's not really much to split Palmer and Salah, who both have away European fixtures this midweek. Both of them will come into 28 with just 3 days recovery. However, because of Ramadan, I expect Palmer's minutes just to be a little bit stronger than Salah's on the weekend. The turnaround to the second leg for that European tie is also much tighter for Liverpool compared to Chelsea. Chelsea play Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, so from the Leicester game to the next game, it's a decent turnaround, whereas Liverpool play Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, which makes rotation against Southampton a likely outcome. Isak's got the full week off to recover. He's got the most rest days and hours ahead of Gameweek 28. However, with the current Newcastle injuries, I expect Eddie Howe to wrap him up in cotton wool against West Ham, especially with the Carabao Cup final in the horizon. Those factors and the minutes have regressed Isak down to not even a top 3 spot on my rankings. He's holding wildcard captain in 28. Look, before we get into my rankings, please make sure you're following at least one of my social platforms, because I'm dropping this video a little bit early before we get any of the team news. I won't be able to see what happens in the Europa League and the Conference League, and there is potential for my rankings to change before the deadline based on new information. If they do change, I'll be posting the updated rankings on my Twitter, TikTok, and my Instagram, so make sure you're keeping an eye on that, because this could be a week where we do get, late injury news, a few late factors, which does change the captaincy picture. I've only had a handful of rankings changes this season, but this is a week where I feel it's important for me to stress that things could change. So check out my links in the video description for more info. Isak in wildcard captain. For me, Newcastle looking a little bit weak. Eddie Howe is without Gordon, Lewis Hall, and Joe Linton for that West Ham game. There's just too many regressing factors, and there's rumors Isak's also carrying a little niggle heading into that. So I think, like I said, he's going to be wrapped in cotton wool, and I would not be going there because there's just too much risk for a top 3 placing, and that's why he's wildcard captain. In at third is Ollie Watkins away to Brentford. His historical record is excellent against the Bees, and with Villa holding a 2-goal lead in their Champions League first round tie against Club Brugge, and that was away from home. I think his minutes look a little bit safer than how I was looking at it coming into this on the Monday. And, we didn't really talk about him much throughout the video, but he does love a 5:30 Saturday kickoff away from home. Unfortunately, the two mids just have better fixtures and more routes to points, which means Ollie needs close to a perfect profile in all categories, and that's something he doesn't have this time round. My Gameweek 28 best captain is Cole Palmer against Leicester City, which means Salah takes second place once again. Look, captaincy is never about risk or going different for me. That's not how I make my decisions, and unfortunately, there's just not much separating the appeal of the fixtures comparing Palmer and Salah. And if we look at everything else, Palmer just has the one-up over Mo Salah. Salah's got too many regressing factors in his profile. That includes his historical records in the 3 o'clock fixtures, at home during Ramadan as well, looking at how that has impacted his explosivity at, the earlier kickoff times, and considering he's been playing every 3 to 4 days for the last month and a half, I'd expect Palmer to come into this Gameweek 28 fixture a little bit fresher compared to the likes of Salah and Liverpool. Also, I'm expecting Slot to rotate pretty heavily against Southampton. Not saying that that's going to impact whether Salah starts or not. If we we might get news of a Salah benching on the Thursday, Friday, but as of now, I am predicting him to start that one. But I'm expecting the likes of Trent to get an early sub. And for me, if you're thinking Trent's getting early sub, Bradley's injured. So you're getting Kwanzaa right back guaranteed for almost 15 or more minutes against Southampton. And that does regress the potential of Salah captaincy. Trent always elevates the appeal for Salah captaincy because that flank is a different ball game when Trent's fit, Trent plus Salah. You cannot just leave it like that. Whereas Kwanzaa, you put Kwanzaa there, he doesn't offer the same going forward than Trent does, or even a Bradley in that position. So that's a red flag. And, you know, there's the other red flags that I've mentioned, which is why he's taking second place. But for you guys, you need to make your own decision here because you cannot just copy me, and you need to be aware of the risk in this decision because Salah's EO is going to be very high this game week. And look, if you think that my argument for Palmer captain is really strong, you agree with it, you've evaluated my factors and you're comfortable with that decision, then by all means join the Palmer hive. But that decision always has to be yours. You need to make your own decision. And as a captaincy guru, I need to caveat, of course, that there's risk to go against. I'm really heavy on Palmer this weekend because he's got an easier turnaround heading into the second leg of Chelsea's European tie. That's a Thursday next week, which makes rotation less likely in that Leicester game. His historical record in the 2 p.m.s, fantastic. His game day profile, second best this week. Leicester, targetable fixture. Not as targetable as Southampton, but still very targetable. The turnaround coming into 28 isn't ideal for Coley, but I think it's basically the same as Salah's, and considering the minutes fatigue, the minutes build-up that Salah's been subject to this season, the last month and a half, I do think Palmer should be a little bit more fresh. I mean, the one thing that Salah does have above us is form, and perhaps that's something we should have weighed higher last week, but this week, it's just not right for Salah. There's too many regressing factors. I can't put him in first place, and for me, Coley will get my armband in 28. If you've enjoyed this one, then drop a like on the video. If you're new around here and you want to stick around, hit subscribe. I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.